Richie, last segment for tonight. Florida State got another win last night and probably pretty desperately needed. After the football game victory, they got a recruiting win on Saturday night. 4-star composite running back out of American Heritage High School, Byron Louis, commits to the Noles. And we'll talk about that for just a moment, but let me just tell you how much I cannot stand, and these kids can do whatever they want. It doesn't bother me. Game day commitments, like at 11:30, like this late at night, after you're already like emotional from the game and everything else, like we need to ban these. Like we need the staff to be like, nah, dog, like you save that for Sunday. Save that for when nothing's going on. The NFL's on. We don't care. Don't do this after, because like, what if we'd have lost? Does he pull back? Like, it's anticlimactic. I mean, thank God they won, but it's anticlimactic if you lose the game and he's like, oh, well, I'm still committing, or whatever. Or does he not do it? Like, could that have impact? You start 0-4. Does he start to have second thoughts? So I'm glad he committed. I don't love the way it happened. So I'll say this. He was definitely like, he had set this date. Yeah, he had set this date. Like it's a little different than that. I just don't love it from a timing perspective for like my own personal selfish reasons. Like not necessarily because I'm worried about like a flip later or whatever. He is 5'11". He's 200 pounds, the number 221 national player on 247. He's 238 overall on the on-3 industry. You beat out Miami, Georgia, and Wisconsin for him. And, I'll say this. Florida State doesn't typically do a great job recruiting against Miami. They haven't done a great job of that in the Mario Cristobal era. Like, we can just call a spade a spade. It's impressive that you had a good enough relationship with him for that to win out, especially considering where he's from. He's from Fort Lauderdale, goes to American Heritage. Obviously, you got a little bit of an in there with Pat Surtain on the roster, on your coaching roster. But this is not necessarily like Miami had some confidence in this. Not necessarily this week. I think everybody kind of had the writing on the wall, but Miami was certainly in this and wanted to win it. But I mean, as much as we malign recruiting, and they certainly still need to improve, I mean, it's always good to beat out Miami for any recruitment. And so, is it something I'm going to do backflips over? Not necessarily. But Richie, I'm a little happy that they beat out their biggest rival or their biggest in-conference rival for a kid down there in South Florida. The wall maybe not all the way built just yet.
Yeah, and if you talk to any college coach, if all things are equal, say there was another 4-star running back available who had, similar measurables and whatnot, you always want someone who comes from a winning program. And American Heritage is one of not just the best teams in the state, but in the entire country. And anytime you get a player that comes from a winning culture that you can bring into your program, that is a huge bonus. Like, there's a reason they send so many kids to Division I. They're not all 4 and 5 stars. But a coach at maybe a UCF or a USF or a Arkansas says, man, if we can get a guy from American Heritage, not only is that great because you're bringing in a guy who's used to winning culture, he knows how to work, he knows what it takes to be good, but now you also have that pipeline of being able to go back to American Heritage and say, hey, I see you got this 5-star, we took this 3-star, this 4-star from you. He worked out really well. Help get us some of this 5-star. I do think recruiting from winning programs is an understated thing that college coaches definitely take as a premium.
So in 2023, had 160 carries for 1,224 yards, 18 scores. Pretty impressive there. He was scoring literally once every 8 times he touched the ball. 22, he had 55 carries, 439 yards, and 11 touchdowns. So a pretty big increase in not only production, but also the times they were going to him from 22 to 23. Really powerful, strong back, short yardage back for sure. Will be useful in 3rd and short, goal line type situations. Really, really strong is kind of the thing that stands out. Can certainly kind of get moving. He's not slow by any means, but I certainly wouldn't call him a burner. He's not going to blaze past you or be Mekhi Danzy, who we'll talk about here in just a moment. But I do really like Cam Akers kind of runs with a little bit of both. He's kind of a mixed bag as strong as he is and as built as he is, he can certainly get moving pretty quick, and he's shifty too. Cam Davis. I don't know if I said Davis or Akers, but I've done that probably 60 times over the last year. Whereas Danzy's kind of like your speedster, your track guy. And I think the strength that Louis kind of carries and the way he runs through tackles is really, really impressive. And then overall, like I think they're building out that running back room pretty nicely. Cam Davis there, Mekhi Danzy, who we just mentioned, and now adding Byron Louis. Now he has to get to signing day. He has to end up signing, but I think that's a big deal for you to continue to build that room. There are certain rooms on this roster, Richie, when we talk about recruiting that I'm certainly worried about, certainly wonder kind of like hey, what's the plan here? Are we going to take guys? Are we going to get anybody? And then there's other rooms where you feel really good. And running back is a room that I feel really good about the future at Florida State. I think, quarterback is a room that's like that. Tight end's probably a room like that. Wide receiver's a room like that. Then there's some question marks at other places. Defensive back feel really good about. And then other rooms, you're kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this, that, or the other. But running back certainly not a room that I have a lot of questions about. Florida State and the way that Mike Norvell has always featured running backs and the way that, personally, like he just loves to run the ball. I think they'll always be fairly successful there. And, maybe we'll save the doom and gloom of crapping on other rooms for a different video. But I feel fairly confident about the running back room and the recruiting there while Mike Norvell's in charge. Yak does a fine job. I don't think he's just a crazy great recruiter. You look, Cam Davis was a big pickup. Kid grew up, was kind of born to be a Seminole, and then Mekhi Danzy was kind of in your backyard. Louis, I think they really wanted Chroma. I don't expect Chroma to when he announces later this week. We'll see if things can change. But I don't want to say they settled on Louis because I think they would have taken Chroma and Louis, but they were at least able to land Louis. And if Chroma would have gone to UGA or wherever, and then Louis went to Miami, that'd have been really bad news for the Noles. So a really good job to get this win here. We'll get right back to chatting with Richie about Florida State's newest commit, but first I do want to give a little bit of love to our friends over at the National Mango Board. We try to remind you guys often, and we appreciate their support, but we're going to do that one more time. If you are shopping for groceries this week, which you probably are because you probably want to eat, grab a couple of mangoes and remember our friends over at the National Mango Board. They're not trying to sell you anything. They're not trying to get you to click a link or use this discount code. Just grab a couple of the best tasting fruits that are available in your local grocer. My daughter asked me the other day, what's your favorite fruit, mango or pineapple? And it was a tough choice, but mango won out. And she said, yep, I agree. Make sure that you're choosing the best fruit in your local grocer. The mangoes always deliver. We appreciate the Mango Board so much for their support, not only of this channel, but FSU Athletics as well.
Yeah, you take what you can get at this point, and it's in recruiting. I hate to say it, but it's almost like the coaches look at it similar to the recruits, where I think Mike's probably different, but you have a lot of coaches out there who will take a commitment just to take it to fill the class at the time, and then they will push that kid out of the class and say, "Hey, listen, just so you know, we're taking a commitment from this guy. You might want to look at your options," to where he may not say, "Hey, I'm rescinding your offer." I don't think that would have been the case here anyway. I think it's a really good take, and I think he will be a great addition to Florida State's running back room. I don't know how much he contributes year one. I think Cam Davis really takes over next year, and he can sit behind him, and he will be definitely a situational running back. But I think it's a really good take, and it's not a reach or desperation at this point. Mike Norvell's not been a guy to reach. If anything, he's been a guy to be too slow moving on prospects that could contribute to a class. So I think this is a really good take.
Yeah, no, I think you're looking at a kid that's like top 250 in both the composite and the on-3 industry. Like he's certainly a good take, and they continue to build that running back room really, really nicely. We want to see other things improve. We want to see other rooms kind of step up to where that one is. We'll see, man. Probably not going to do anything until you make some changes at who is recruiting those rooms. So let's move on though, because I said I wouldn't be negative about this after celebrating a recruiting win. So